Hey, good morning, everybody. I'm so glad you're here. I'm Rita Hickman. I'm a body mind expert and shiatsu massage therapist, and I help women in narcissistic and toxic relationships. I do it through one-on-one coaching. I do it through these live streams and private Facebook groups and public Facebook groups. This is a big topic. Narcissism is something that everybody has to some degree or another, and it comes out when people feel that they need to protect themselves at a high level. Like it's definitely survival, me or you. So some people are clinically diagnosed as narcissists, and those people they have so many challenges and so many issues that they are, and their narcissism is at such a high level that they're clinically defined as narcissists. However, underneath that title, there's a whole large amount, which probably many of you are in relationships with, people who are either on one or the other side of um, the idea of narcissists. So one is on, like I like to say, the right side, more the right side, and that's more people who tend towards Asperger's. They're engineers, they're scientists, they're high level thinkers. Their world tends to be internal, and they are not going to change. So the topic today is: can a narcissist heal? So if somebody's more on the right side of the spectrum, like Asperger's, or close to Asperger's, um, and it's a lot more common than you would think. Look at all the um, high tech careers anymore, and that's where you'll find a lot of people who their thinking is very clear, their thinking is very detailed, and it's internal. So they're narcissists because they're so focused on themselves, they're so focused on what's going on inside their head that they aren't even aware of what's going on around them. So, the way to help narcissists who are like that, if you decide that they're important to you, is to help them learn how to behave in a less selfish and self absorbed way. So, when someone's born and they tend towards the Asperger's, if they have really good parenting, then the parents teach them, hey, this is how you talk to people when somebody falls. This is how you interact with people when you're in the grocery store. You know, you teach them how to interact in a more caring and nurturing way, and some adults are able to do that too. I mean, their hearts are really good. I know many people who are on the spectrum. Their hearts are beautiful, but they're so self-absorbed. They're terrible to live with because it's all about them. It's all about what's going on in their head all of the time. But if somebody's worth it, then you might want to put in the effort to see if they're able to be less of a narcissist. On the other side are people who have more mental health disorders, and that would be bipolar, that would be borderline personality, that might even be ADD and ADHD. So, on the opposite side, people are going into fight or flight because of fear and PTSD, and their brain can't think clearly, and it's foggy, and they're freaking out, and they're having a panic attack. Panic attacks can turn people into narcissists for sure, because it's people get to a point where they know they will do anything they have to protect themselves. And what that means is they'll say anything, they'll hurt anybody, they'll push anybody away. And it's not triggered by anything normal. It's triggered by too many stresses, actually, too many things going on. So, a narcissist who's more based on emotions, they tend to be very volatile. You're walking on eggshells. You don't know what's going to happen at any point in time, and you end up with PTSD because of it. But the underlying causes of those can be usually a combination of something like ADD or ADHD or bipolar with PTSD. When you have the two together, you have someone who's very volatile, who has very little control over their emotions, but just enough that they can keep on a good face out in public. But once they get home, once they get by themselves, once they feel safe with you, their partner, or their children, or whatever, that's when it all comes loose. So, those sorts of narcissists, almost everybody loves them. Everybody thinks that they're amazing and wonderful. And how could they be like this? But they come home and they are off the charts because they've been trying to manage this feeling of helplessness and hopelessness. Now, is that curable? That's a question, isn't it? You know, if someone wants to do their work, if someone wants to work on clearing their PTSD, if someone wants to learn how to manage their mental health thing going on, their borderline or their um, or they're bipolar, or they're ADD or ADHD, or anything like that. When people want to work on those because they've got a really good reason, but it's usually not, the status quo. The status quo is not a good reason to change. A good reason to change is there's significant loss of something that they really value. Could be not being able to see grandchildren. It could be not being able to see children. It could be um, not getting, going out in public. It could be all sorts of crazy things. So you have to ask yourself on either side, if you're in a relationship with either, with either more the Asperger's or more the mental health, you have to decide for yourself. Because if people are behaving on a high narcissism level for long periods of time, this is their status quo. It's pretty ingrained. And if they're older, this is what they're going to do. And probably from day one, even before you met them, they've been protecting themselves, trying to make sure that they're always in control of a situation, and are threatening and intimidating, and so that they can keep themselves safe, because they feel so helpless. If someone really has a good motivation to change, and they've got so many wonderful things, and you understand where they're coming from, sure, you'll want to stick with them and help them unpack their baggage. But if they don't, if this is how they live their life, then you have to allow them to be who they are. So cured, not cured, it all depends upon the person. If they want to put the time and effort and love in, and they feel secure enough, and there's good enough reason, then they will. But if there isn't a good enough reason, then they won't. And that's where you're at. You have to decide whether this is a relationship worth sticking with, or this is a relationship not worth sticking with. And if you're still in a relationship with them, if you understand the underlying causes, let's say you got divorced, but they're still in your life, if you can look at the underlying causes, and figuring out what type of narcissists they are, it'll give you much better ideas and understandings on how to survive the interactions. If you need to have a relationship with them, how to make it go as smoothly and gracefully for yourself as possible. So it's good to find out how do you deal with people with PTSD? How do you deal with ADD and ADHD? If you focus down on those, you'll get a good idea of what you're dealing with. And it might make it a little bit easier for you to not feel so victimized. Now, can you become a narcissist? Of course. Anybody has that trait. It just depends upon what situation they're in. And if anybody, when they're in a difficult enough situation, will more than likely preserve themselves. And the problem with most narcissists, at least ones with mental health, is in their head. It is about protect yourself at all costs. And that's very hard to get through. It's very hard to help people feel safe enough and relaxed enough, and recognize that they're safe and relaxed enough, that they don't have to freak out. They don't have to go there. They don't have to engage with you in that way. So those are some things to think about. Cured, not cured, it's a wiggly line. But when you start diving a little bit deeper into this, you'll realize that narcissism comes from a wide variety of tools, and you get to decide whether a relationship is worth it. And a number of people do, because their narcissist might really sincerely be one of the nicest people they've ever met. But they are narcissists because they're more Asperger's, and other people not so much. Maybe the trauma or the difficulty is too much, and you don't want to stick with them because you're tired of living that way, because things aren't really going to change, and you deserve a better life. So you get to decide. And if you need a little bit of help, reach out. I've got those great groups. I can send you an application. We do strategy calls where it figures out where you are, where you're going, and what to do next. So I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I'll talk to you tomorrow. Bye.